There's a game being played all around us, right now. And it's not about who's the strongest or has the most money. Nope. It's a game of the mind, a subtle art of influence that has, no joke, toppled empires and built fortunes. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain on this invisible game.
This quote from Robert Greene just nails it, doesn't it? I mean, think about it. You have guys like Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. These are titans, leaders of armies, rulers of the known world. And they were completely captivated. They weren't beaten by a bigger army, but by whispers, by illusions, by a psychological game played with absolute, devastating skill.
So what's the deal here? How is that even possible? Is it some kind of dark magic, or is there an actual science to it? And maybe the more important question is, what is it about our own brains that makes us so susceptible to these strategies? Well, that's exactly what we're about to dive into.
Okay, so first things first, we need to understand the goal. The whole point of seduction isn't just about attraction. It's to create what Robert Greene calls a psychological surrender. It's basically a state that's just like being head over heels in love, where the cold, hard logic of your rational mind just gets washed away by this huge wave of emotion. You literally lose the ability to think straight, and you love every minute of it. And here's the wild part. A lot of the time, we actually want the illusion more than we want boring old reality. And masters of influence, they get this. They're like movie directors for real life, creating this heightened, cinematic world around them. Everything they do, everything they say, it all makes you feel like you've stepped out of your normal life and right into a story. And that feeling of escape, man, is it addictive.
All right, so this surrender thing, it's not a magic spell. It's actually way more scientific. It's about strategically exploiting predictable little glitches in our own thinking. The mental shortcuts our brains are using all the time just to get through the day. Let's take a look at a few of these triggers.
Let's kick things off with a classic from the legendary psychologist Robert Cialdini. It's called the contrast principle, and it's super simple. Our brains are terrible at judging things in a vacuum. They always have to compare something to whatever came just before it. And you better believe this can be used to great effect.
You've totally seen this in action, right? A good salesperson will always show you the ridiculously expensive suit first. Why? Because it sets a new anchor in your brain for what's expensive. All of a sudden, that $95 sweater that follows seems like an absolute bargain. But if they'd shown you the sweater first, you might have thought twice. The price never changed, but your perception of it did, completely.
Okay, now let's level up. This technique builds right on that last idea. You start by making a huge, almost crazy request, one you fully expect to get shot down. Then you retreat to a much smaller request, which, by the way, was the one you wanted all along. Now, to the other person, it feels like you've compromised, and they feel this social pressure to meet you halfway. And if you think this is just for small stuff, get this. The Watergate break-in? G. Gordon Liddy's first plan cost $1 million and involved kidnapping. It was rejected, obviously. But when he came back with a cheaper $250,000 plan, it suddenly didn't seem so crazy. And it got approved, changing history forever.
So we've got the playbook. Now let's talk about the players, the Hall of Famers, because these principles, they're timeless. You can see them being used by masters of the game throughout all of history, right up to this very minute.
I mean, just look at this. Cleopatra didn't just show up to meet Mark Antony. She arrived on a golden barge, dressed as the goddess Aphrodite, creating this completely overwhelming, intoxicating spectacle. Now, fast forward 2,000 years. In the pickup artist world, they call it peacocking, wearing a goofy hat or a flashy jacket to do the exact same thing, stand out and create a memorable, theatrical illusion. The tech is different, but the brain hack, it's identical.
And now for something a bit more modern and, well, frankly, a bit more manipulative. The neg. It's not a direct insult. It's a backhanded compliment, and it's designed specifically to throw you off balance. The whole psychological point is to briefly lower your self-esteem and make you feel like you suddenly need to earn their approval. It's a very sneaky way of flipping the power dynamic on its head.
And this really brings us to today, doesn't it? These ideas of influence aren't just for spies or pickup artists anymore. They've gone totally mainstream, especially in dating. We're all encouraged to build a personal brand, right? To carefully curate our image online to attract the right people. We are all, in one way or another, playing a version of this game.
But why, though? Why is this stuff so powerful? Why do these little games work on us, even when we can see them coming a mile away? Well, to answer that, we have to dig deeper than just psychology. We need to look at the ancient biological programming that's running the show underneath it all.
This is where the work of Dr. Helen Fisher is just so mind-blowing.
Her research shows that intense romantic love, it's not really an emotion, it's a fundamental drive. It's as primal as hunger or thirst, and it's coming from the same ancient reptilian part of our brain. So these tactics we're talking about, they're not just clever party tricks, they are hacks that target this incredibly powerful and often uncontrollable circuitry in our brains.
And if you need any proof of just how powerful that drive is, how deep this really goes, just look at this number from Dr. Fisher's work. It turns out men are 2.5 times more likely to kill themselves when a relationship ends.
Wow, that is a staggering, brutal statistic. And it tells you everything you need to know. This isn't about getting your feelings hurt in a pop song kind of way. This is about the biological reality of attachment. It shows the sheer, raw force of this system inside our brains. It can literally be a matter of life and death. And it's that deep, powerful, and sometimes desperate need that these tactics of influence are designed to plug directly into.
So let's wrap this up. We've seen the goal, that psychological surrender. We've seen the tactics, those little mental triggers. And now we've seen the why, because they hack our deepest biological drives. Which leaves us with one final, fascinating question. In a world where this invisible game is being played all the time, is the real power not in becoming a master of the game, but in recognizing the rules so clearly that you can consciously choose not to be a pawn? Something to think about.